And I'm joined now by Kat Hobbs, who leads the group We Own It, which is in favour of rail nationalisation. Kat, you're very welcome on BBC News 9 this morning. You would be surprised, would you, if Northern Rail wasn't put back into public ownership?
Yes, we would be, and we're really pleased because passengers who are suffering with Northern Rail have been having a terrible time, and I think if Grant Shapps decides to nationalise Northern Rail, that will be a fantastic decision that's supported by 64% of the population as well.
It's quite a move, though, ideologically, for a Conservative government, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I think what this shows is that public ownership of the railway is actually just more efficient, it makes more sense, and we can't have this situation where private companies are putting their profits first instead of putting passengers first, and passengers are just suffering. You know, people can't get to work, they can't make the journeys that they need to. So I think this is a pragmatic decision about putting passengers before profits.
It's quite a change, isn't it, when we think back to, well, decades ago when many of the train lines were in public ownership, were nationalised. I'm just interested now, in 2020, how publicly owned rail services rate and how they operate in other countries.
Well, the best railway in Europe is the Swiss railway, which is in public ownership. And of course, lots of the state-owned rail companies from other countries run our railways and actually profit from our railways and then return those profits back to their own countries. And of course, we've seen with the East Coast Line, that's now been brought into public hands because the private company failed. And that's worked again and again really well in public ownership, and it's failed again and again with privatisation.
So do you think the government might be looking more at those examples, like the Swiss, publicly owned Swiss national rail company and how it's rated with the public when making this decision today?
Yes, I think they should be. And I think, you know, obviously this is the chance to improve the service for passengers who are suffering, but it's also a chance to take the whole railway into public ownership. And that would be much more efficient overall to run it as an integrated network that really works for people.
How is a publicly owned railway going to be paid for? I mean, there's an obvious answer to that question, but, you know, how are those vast sums of money going to be found when budgets are tight? And is there going to be enough public money to make it work properly, to get rid of some of those problems that you've been talking about, that passengers complain about?
So the great thing about bringing the railway into public ownership is it needn't cost us a penny, because all we need to do is when the franchises come up for renewal or when there's issues like the issue on Northern Rail, we can bring it back in-house and there's no need to compensate any shareholders because that franchise is coming to an end.
But there are costs in running it.
Of course, and the good thing about public ownership is it saves us £1 billion a year because we're not sending profits to shareholders, but also because it's more efficient. There's a lot less fragmentation in the railway if we have it as a publicly owned integrated network.
There's a lot to prove though, isn't there?
Yes, I think there is a lot to prove. I think it's a really good opportunity because we need a railway that works for society, that gets people to work on time, but also a railway that offers people an alternative to driving and flying and helps us meet our climate targets. So I think public ownership is a great chance to do that. And if we can start by taking back Northern Rail, that's a really good start.
Thank you so much for watching. Please do let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, share and subscribe to us here on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/WeOwnItCampaign. You can catch up with us on Twitter at @we_ownit, or you can follow me at Kat Hobbs, and you can follow us on Instagram at WeOwnIt_campaign. If you support public ownership, the most important thing you can do is to sign up for our newsletter by clicking on the link in the description below. We need you with us so we can win campaigns and get public services for people, not profit.